Everybody, I'm Elise. There's another truth here on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening to my commentary only video. I hope that you're all doing well and that you're taking exceptional care of yourselves. I know the holiday season might be difficult for many of you out there. I understand. I'm going through my own stuff and it's very challenging and triggering in every way possible. So my heart is with you, and I understand. I may not understand everything you're going through because I'm not experiencing it from your eyes, from your mind, from your heart, but I do understand the struggle of dealing with emotions and conflict and grief and all of that. It's very powerful, and certainly the holidays bring that up for us. Especially when there are noticeable absences in our lives. Excuse me. There are a few things I want to address in this video. It's not really in any order, but I did want to talk about grief and relationships. So there will be a trigger warning if you are triggered by discussions about mental illness, abandonment, grief, mourning, anything like that. Please click out because I understand. Also, at the end of this video, we'll talk a little bit about Colleen Ballinger and about some opinions by other YouTube content creators that really gave me some insight I didn't consider before. So, as far as grief and relationships are concerned, recently, two people I love very much experienced powerful losses in their lives. One family member lost a very close friend, and my best friend in the world lost his mother. Now, in those situations, my family member is a younger person, and the person who passed away very young, whereas my best friend's mother passed away well into her 90s. The pain is there for both of them. It doesn't matter how long a person, it might matter how long a person's lived when you expect them to live long, but I could never say to somebody, well, at least she had a long life or he had a long life, because it's still devastating for the person who is experiencing that loss. So while the grief might be different because these are two very different people in two different circumstances facing grief together, it's still very painful. And so things have not been upbeat and not have been positive or anything like that. I decided that being positive doesn't help. You have to go with the feels, so to speak, and work through the grief. I experienced a different kind of grief, and sorry, there's a lot of excitement in my city, lots of things going on, and that includes emergency personnel, so please excuse that. Plus, my cat is very active. My bestie is playing video games in the other room, so it's kind of like a little bit noisy here. So, I experienced a different kind of a grief, and that grief was having to conclude a very distant, complicated, toxic relationship with one of my parents. And as much as that was empowering, it was important for me to do. I wouldn't say empowering, but it was important for me to do, to be able to move on, to be able to stop the nonsense. The incredible feeling of loss was so overwhelming. The loss of not having their complete love, their acceptance, their respect, their support. I wouldn't even say it was a loss, it's a deficit, but I could feel it. And all that trauma that they inflicted upon me just all surfaced. Now, the type of grief and sadness I'm going through, there's no system in place to be able to help someone through that. Do you think anybody said, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for what you're going through? No, not a single person. None of my loved ones did it. And it's not to vilify them, because there's just no system for it. There's no acceptance for this kind of thing, because it's just assumed that we have to try to make our relationships work. And I damn well will not do that. But it still affected me in a way that but sent me into a deep depression, in which I still am and trying to work through. And I mean a severe depression. I don't sound like it. But some of the feelings and symptoms I'm having, yeah. So, I have to again pick up the pieces, from what my parents did to me. And listen, when I concluded my relationship, I told them under no circumstances do I blame them for any choices that I made as an adult, because ideally it was up to me. But that what they had done contributed to the way that I looked at myself and felt about myself. And I made those distinctions clear. And among other things. And luckily, I was able to do that with this parent, because I couldn't do it with the other parent. I had the opportunity to say what was on my mind, what I thought honestly. I didn't say everything, because there were other things going on. And I just knew that this was not good. But I didn't bring up those things because I wanted to connect it more to the stuff that had happened to me in my childhood, because that's where it hurts the most. Everything else is just sort of that continuity of selfishness, of self-destruction, of alienation all along. So it's not something that I had expected to change, because this person never really took accountability for that. So I'm kind of left alone to work on that. No sympathy card. No, I'm sorry. No, is there anything I can do for you to help you through it? It's like they said, well, you made an adult decision and that's it. Well, it's not entirely the point. It's not the point. The point is it still hurts, Now, if I look at this through the lens of relationships, what is the most important relationship that a person could have? Of course, with your children, of course, with your loved ones. If you don't have a relationship with yourself, in my opinion, now, mind you, I do not have any expertise in this at all. I am someone who's experienced it as a person, as a regular person, but I do not have any professional expertise. That is something that you'll have to do with an expert on your own time. But that relationship, the relationship I really needed was the relationship with myself, and not done out of withdrawing from humanity. It's quite the opposite, actually, because having the relationship with myself, I feel more comfortable having acquaintances, having a social network, developing these things so that I'm part of the human race. Okay. So there's no more this sense I have to isolate and be afraid of everything. And having that relationship with myself as being acutely aware of myself, being self aware, which I am. I'm not as hyper vigilant as I used to be, because I find that that has a total opposite effect of what you would think it would mean. But having a good sense of self awareness of helps. That takes therapy. It takes time. It takes development, especially if people didn't help you develop that. So I don't live so much in a cloud of delusion. And I'm not saying that to hurt anybody who's having delusional thinking. Believe me, I am experiencing delusional thinking. I am in distortion land, but I can separate myself from that and look at it because I had the training and therapy to do that. I separated it. What this also means is that the way that some of my beliefs are changing, some of my thinking is changing. I'm still who I am. I'm still a left winger. I'm still all those things, but those are that, but this isn't just political. I mean, it's also social. It's not having so much of a black and white thinking that it obscures my relationship with myself and, of course, relationship that I have with my loved ones, acquaintances, community, the planet, and so on. So, I could say that this year was tough on relationships. What year isn't tough on relationships for anybody? Somebody could be living in their own world and thinking that they're everything, okay? And they have no clue how much they've self-sabotaged themselves. They have no clue how they're relating to anybody like that. I mean, we look at Colleen Ballinger as an example, as an extreme example of someone who does not have a good relationship with themselves, okay? Who's not self-aware, whether it's an elective position or she can't because of some disorder. I don't know. But it's I'm telling you, if you don't have that self-love and that relationship, if you're not comfortable with who you are, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I'm telling you, I have personality issues. I have mental health issues on top of everything else. Believe me, it's challenging because I'm still saying, oh, I'm all alone. I'm all alone. I'm not all alone. I mean, for me, I'm not all alone. I have acquaintances. I have friends. There's a community out there. Whether they want me or not doesn't matter. I'm part of it. I'm part of it. And what I say matters. What I do matters. Okay? Even if it's in a small way, any small change, any small thing said, anything like that that contributes, it matters. Not everybody can contribute, but it doesn't mean that that their existence isn't important. Um, and I could be just a very privileged point of view I'm coming from. It could be, and I think it is, and I think that, um, you know, it might sound a little labelist, but I'm telling you, I struggled a lot to get to this point, a lot with my identity, who I am. Part of my issue is not having my identity. And sometimes, you know, I, in my earlier life, I would mimic people because I thought that would be the cool way of doing things instead of developing myself because I wasn't developed. Nobody took part in that development in a very realistic and responsible way. So I had to kind of train myself to do that. And of course, to some level, we influence each other in one way or another. There's no striking special identity out there unless it's quite rare that makes a person more important, more special, more whatever. I don't believe that because it puts a lot of people who aren't perfect into sort of a class of, well, they don't deserve as much because they don't make an impact as much. So going back to relationships, I say that this has been a difficult year of relationships being reevaluated. That is more difficult than having complicated relationships and just moving through them, denying them, doing the same stupid shit over and over in them. Reevaluating relationships very seriously and breaking away from that is very risky. Some people do it and still something happens to them. People start standing up for themselves. The people who want to oppress them are working harder and harder to oppress them. You can see that playing out on the political stage. You see that in the social stage. You see that happening on YouTube. So where does it put that relationship you have with yourself, with your family, with your friend, your community, work, the planet, who you are in this world? You have to kind of reevaluate what's going on. And I've had to reevaluate that. And it's come with tremendous loss that isn't always looked at as a legitimate loss. Or it's like they'll say, oh, Elise, you're just doing your borderline thing again. You're just throwing away friendships and stuff. And I'm like, you don't live with relationships when people treat you as an audience member. I don't want to be an audience member. I want to be a part of a person's friendship, a life. I don't want to be on the outsider. If they don't feel like I'm good enough, they can't trust me. There's no point in me giving anything to that. They're just a mere acquaintance. Okay. Or they do things and it's toxic and they don't listen. And it's like, you've had enough of it. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. Okay. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect at that, but I know my limits. And sometimes you just have to. And I got better because at least I responded to these people and say, this is enough. I've had enough of this. It was definitely the year of me to reevaluate my friendships, but stand up for myself more and to keep speaking out and to keep speaking up for myself. I'm not always going to do it perfectly. I'm not going to do it the proper way sometimes, not in an abusive or threatening manner or anything like that. But, but I'm going to be persistent and I'm going to say what I believe. And if something isn't correct, I'm going to say something. That is going to leave me in a position where I'm not going to have everybody around me. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm not here to be that. I'm not a doormat. I refuse to be that. I refuse to go away. Where my presence is vital, of course. I'm not forcing my friendship or forcing that kind of thing. But in the community, yes, because it's important. The socialization, having representation, being able to speak out. So that's kind of like that's kind of the relationship with oneself that I've been talking about. So I think I had to really focus that on myself more because I'll never be truly at peace. I'll never find that comfort. I don't have a very strong supportive network. I do have a supportive network, but it's not large and strong. I wasn't born with in great circumstances at all, but it doesn't make me less valuable. It doesn't make me more vulnerable. It could, but if I have a relationship with myself, I'm less vulnerable because I can take better care of myself. And I think that's the gift of having the kind of life that I've had, that I can come to that conclusion. And sometimes I feel left out because in understanding culture and people's values and people's ways and things, I often can't relate because family is fundamental to their world. And I don't have those connections and I feel left out a lot. But the fact of the matter is that I have a connection to this planet because I'm part of this world. I'm a part of it. I'm made of stardust like anybody else. I am in this community, and perhaps that is what is most important for me at this time. I'm not saying I like it emotionally, but I also feel more powerful in that position because I fight my own battles. Um, I stand up for myself, and I hope that in one day I can be a better service to my community and be able to help someone else find their voice. So there's that. So relationships are tough, but you got to have a relationship with yourself. And that sometimes it's hard to do because you want to do the right thing, you want to stand by people, but you can't stand by people who shit all over you. You just have to let it go sometimes. Sometimes you can't say something to that person because they're hostile. And sometimes you do, even when you're shaking in your boots saying it. And I respect you for that as well. Respect all around. Okay, so now as far as the Colleen Ballinger situation is concerned, I recently watched a couple of videos, one from Radiant Brit. I know some of you all don't really support her, but she really did bring up some good points in one of her videos today about sponsorships. Now, I haven't been able to publish a lot of the Colleen Ballinger stuff that I did do just because I'm ranting and raving. It's more personal therapeutic process. It's really weird. And maybe I'll publish a different version of that where I'm focusing on what matters and not every stupid thing she does. Now, it's a way to take power back. Now, she's very triggering. She's not responsible for any of my pain, but she's responsible for a lot of her victims' pain. And maybe I was bamboozled by her as well, but I do not have what victims have endured. But I have found, I'm pretty convinced that a lot of her positive, not a lot, but some of her positive stuff is fake, her positive responses. Radiant Brent has mentioned that her the likes and stuff are plummeting. I'm not sure who's left advertising, if she still has AdSense at all. But if I ever come across her videos and there's an ad and it's for something that I use or I could potentially use, I'm going to boycott buying it, participating in the brand, or I'll reach out and say, I had, authentically considered your brand because this is what you do, but you're advertising on this person's channel and this person is toxic, especially with brand deals. And so Radiant Brit brought up Colleen's kind of sneaky way to grift again through affiliate links or whatever. I'm not sure, whatever that link was, but it led to a particular brand. And I think Radio Brit meant to say it was sort of like a call out to them, but I could be confusing that with the call out that maybe her Colleen's brother was doing in one of his videos for brand deals and stuff. Now, I don't know what Colleen is thinking, but I can't imagine anybody really wanting to sponsor her channel. And even the brand that she brought up that really had no way of sponsoring her, even said I didn't sponsor her. It was sponsoring her. It wasn't happening. What was happening though is, she's trying to find that. She's trying to grift. She's trying to get what she can at this point, I think, to shore up financial support. And, if YouTube isn't going to do anything about it, then brands attached to her could, and that's where we can wield our economic power not to support it. And that'll dry it up. Now, she's going to use things that we use. She's going to use deodorants. She's going to bake cookies. She's going to drink coffee, all those things. We can't stop that. Can't say she can't show coffee. I mean, she shouldn't even be on fucking YouTube at all. But I do support in this case going to advertisers expressing concern about that, because it's making a statement. I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm going to boycott. I don't do it for all people. Like, I wouldn't do it against the Duggar women just because, they're in a vulnerable state. And, that's a different story. It's not a matter of just doing one and not all. Colleen's situation is especially dangerous and egregious. It's proven. And I don't want to support that. I don't want to support that. I don't even like bringing up her name or thinking about her because she's triggering. I said what I had to say on that. Okay. But I do think that at the end of the day, that I can't get caught. I mean, I do participate in her subreddit here and there, but I can't get caught up in the everyday conversations. I can't get lost in it because my own mental health is important to me, and I have a lot of personal things that are going on, things that I'm trying to work through. I don't need that added burden, but this is a problem because these groomers and predators exist on YouTube, and YouTube does absolutely fuck all to get rid of these people, and they keep coming back and doing that, and no one's thinking about children. I can go in the whole spiel about children's rights, and I might do that because I think I will. I think I make a video about that professionally and clearly, and how videos like Colleen's impacts that. Obviously, the victims are already saying their own experiences, but other people have called it out over the years. There was another content creator that I saw today. It wasn't a long video, but they pointed out how certain people in the music industry has used their platform to groom. I mean, we can come up with all kinds of celebrities and YouTube personalities who have done that, and YouTube has done absolutely nothing serious to clear the platform to make it a safe space for children. I don't care if the video's not for children. There should not be predators and perverts and all of this other nonsense online at all, because it doesn't just, it affects the children, it affects victims' lives. What about their safety and comfort on this platform? And it's extremely triggering, especially to people who are vulnerable, who've had that kind of experience, but more so toward the victims. And there seems to be no justice in terms of that. But blocking avenues, of Colleen making money in a way for people to use their power and voice to say, I'm not going to support this. I don't want to be a part of this. That's a kindest act of self-care. It's the kindest act of having having a good relationship with yourself, saying, I'm not going to participate in this. Okay, so it's more than just about Colleen. It's more about, I'm not going to tolerate being lied to by these assholes. I'm not going to tolerate these people doing things and potentially putting me, my kids, or other people's kids in harm's way. And I think that is a responsible use of protest and having a say. But those are just my opinions. I do appreciate the time that you have listened to this video. Thank you so much. Please take care, and all of my best to you. Bye-bye.